Welcome to our Middle East briefing program. Today, we're diving into the intense unrest in Iran, where protests over economic decline have led to a violent crackdown, resulting in at least 500 deaths and a shocking makeshift morgue filled with around 250 bodies. The situation is chaotic, with the government blaming protesters, but eyewitnesses report lethal force and brutality. With internet blackouts limiting information, the full story remains hidden, but the scale of violence is undeniable. Next, we turn to U.S. President Donald Trump, who has announced a hefty 25% tariff on all transactions with countries doing business with Iran. This move could impact major trade partners like China, India, and Turkey, and comes amid rising tensions over Iran's protests and alleged use of deadly force. The tariffs are immediate and sweeping, signaling a tough stance on Iran and its allies, with potential ripple effects across global markets. Finally, in Australia, a cultural controversy has erupted after the Adelaide Festival disinvited prominent Palestinian-Australian writer Dr. Randa Abdel Fattah, citing cultural sensitivities. This decision sparked protests from over 180 writers and free speech advocates, accusing the festival of censorship and political interference. The fallout has led to resignations and heated debates about artistic freedom, racial bias, and the influence of politics on cultural events. It's a vivid example of how free expression is being challenged worldwide amid ongoing conflicts. CNN vividly depicts Iran's ongoing crisis, where the Kurizak Forensic Medical Center is overwhelmed with bodies, highlighting the brutal crackdown on protests sparked by economic despair. Families gather in anguish, desperately searching for loved ones amid scenes of black body bags lining the courtyard and warehouse floors, testaments to the regime's violent response. Iranian authorities attempt to craft a narrative blaming rioters and innocent bystanders, but human rights groups and eyewitness testimonies paint a starkly different picture, revealing security forces firing live rounds and using tasers against protesters and civilians alike. With the internet blackout obscuring the full scope, the true human toll remains elusive, yet the images and reports underscore a regime resorting to lethal force to suppress dissent, with over 500 protesters killed and thousands detained since December. Nikkei Asia reports President Donald Trump's aggressive stance on Iran, announcing a sweeping tariff of 25% on all U.S. business dealings with any country engaging with Iran. This move signals a hardline approach aimed at crippling Iran's economic relations and exerting maximum pressure. Trump's declaration, made via social media, underscores the administration's intent to isolate Iran further, leveraging tariffs as a tool to enforce sanctions and curb the regime's influence. The policy's immediate effect is clear. Countries and companies must now navigate a complex landscape of economic penalties if they choose to maintain ties with Iran, intensifying the already tense geopolitical standoff. BBC narrates the tumultuous fallout from Australia's prestigious Adelaide Festival after the controversial decision to disinvite Dr. Randa Abdel Fattah, a prominent Australian-Palestinian writer known for her outspoken criticism of Israel. The festival's board cited sensitivities following the Bondi Beach attack, which was linked to Islamic State militants, claiming Abdel Fattah's past statements made her culturally insensitive. This decision ignited a mass exodus of over 180 writers, including notable figures like Jacinda Ardern and Zadie Smith, who condemned the censorship and defended free speech. Critics argue that the move reflects a troubling capitulation to political pressure and anti-Palestinian sentiment, threatening the integrity of the festival and broader cultural discourse. The controversy underscores the peril of conflating political stances with artistic freedom, raising urgent questions about the role of arts in challenging societal issues amidst heightened tensions. The New York Times vividly recounts the legal and political labyrinth surrounding Nicolas Maduro's abduction, framing it within the broader context of the U.S. government's post-9/11 war paradigm. The article details how successive American administrations have blurred the lines between war and law enforcement, invoking the law of war to justify actions that are legally murky and often illegal under international law. It emphasizes that the U.S. attack on Venezuela was a stark manifestation of this twisted logic, where the White House, without congressional approval, initiated what could be considered an international crime, an armed conflict disguised as a law enforcement operation. Maduro's own declaration of being a prisoner of war underscores the absurdity of the legal chaos, which is rooted in the expansive, often unchecked powers granted to the executive branch since 2001. The narrative underscores that this approach has led to devastating consequences, including the indefinite detention and torture of detainees at Guantanamo, the unprovoked invasion of Iraq under false pretenses, and the expansion of drone warfare, all justified through an amorphous and often illegitimate state of war. Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports on President Donald Trump's aggressive new tariffs targeting countries that do business with Iran, highlighting the geopolitical and economic ramifications of this move. Trump's announcement of a 25% tariff, effective immediately, aims to pressure nations like China, Brazil, Turkey, and Russia, key players in Iran's international trade, to cease their dealings with Tehran. The White House offers little detail on the implementation, leaving questions about what constitutes doing business with Iran and whether the tariffs will target goods, services, or both. The move follows Trump's long-standing threats of military intervention over Iran's protests and internal unrest, framing the situation as a national security crisis. Iranian officials, including Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, dismiss the chaos as under control, blaming external actors like Israel and the US for fueling violence, and express openness to diplomacy. Trump's tariff escalation signifies a hardening stance amid ongoing tensions, with the potential to significantly increase costs for global trade, especially with China, which could see tariffs rise from 20% to 45%. This policy intensifies the already volatile US-Iran relationship, risking broader economic fallout and further destabilizing international markets. CNN provides a detailed account of Trump's sweeping tariffs and their broader implications, emphasizing the uncertainty surrounding the policy's implementation and the geopolitical stakes involved. The president's declaration, posted on Truth Social, leaves many questions unanswered. What exactly qualifies as doing business with Iran, which countries will be targeted, and whether the tariffs will extend to services as well as goods. The article underscores that these tariffs could dramatically raise costs for major trading partners like China and Turkey, potentially triggering a new wave of trade tensions reminiscent of last year's tariff war, which saw Chinese goods tariffs soar to 145%. The move is contextualized against Trump's previous threats of military intervention and his vocal support for anti-government protests in Iran, which have been met with a government-imposed internet blackout and a heavy death toll among protesters. The article highlights the risk that these tariffs could escalate into a broader economic conflict, further complicating international diplomacy and potentially destabilizing global markets, as the U.S. signals a willingness to use economic sanctions as a tool of foreign policy amidst ongoing crises. According to South China Morning Post, President Donald Trump has declared a sweeping new tariff policy targeting countries that maintain commercial relations with Iran. Effective immediately, a 25% tariff will be imposed on all goods and services imported from any nation that does business with Iran, a move that is described as final and conclusive. Major economies like China and India are expected to bear the brunt of this policy, given their significant energy and trade ties with Tehran. The move appears to be a strategic effort to exert economic pressure on Iran amid ongoing protests and diplomatic tensions, with the potential to ripple across global markets and international relations. Yahoo US reports that Israeli President Isaac Herzog has voiced concern over the exodus of young Christian families from Israel, emphasizing the importance of security and peace for all communities in the Holy Land. During a Christmas and New Year reception, Herzog highlighted the need to make Christian communities feel welcome and secure, referencing the Abraham Accords as a foundation for regional peace and prosperity. He also expressed solidarity with the Iranian people and praised global Christian support for a better future. The Patriarch Theophilos III of the Greek Orthodox Church added that the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas offers hope for lasting peace, while Christians in the Holy Land continue their humanitarian work, especially for vulnerable groups like children with cancer and wounded civilians. He stressed the challenges posed by rising hostility in Palestinian territories and the importance of respecting coexistence and safety for all. BBC details President Trump's recent announcement of a 25% tariff on countries engaging in business with Iran, a move that coincides with escalating protests in Iran over economic hardship and political legitimacy. The tariffs, effective immediately, target Iran's key trading partners such as China, Iraq, the UAE, Turkey, and India, aiming to pressure Tehran amid ongoing unrest and violence. The U.S. government has not specified which nations will be most affected, but the policy signals a hardline stance amidst fears of further destabilization. Concurrently, Trump has hinted at the possibility of military intervention, with threats of air strikes still on the table, as Iran faces a wave of protests and a deepening economic crisis marked by currency devaluation and rising casualties among protesters and security forces. The Nikkei Asia reports that amid escalating tensions with Iran, concerns are mounting among Asian officials and analysts that the United States might divert one of its aircraft carriers from the Indo-Pacific to the Middle East, leaving a potential gap in regional naval coverage. President Trump has hinted at military options, warning of strikes if Iran harms protesters, prompting Iran's parliament speaker to threaten retaliation against U.S. and Israeli forces. Currently, the U.S. Navy's fleet of 11 aircraft carriers faces operational constraints, with only the USS George H.W. Bush seemingly ready for deployment, a process that could take weeks. The USS Abraham Lincoln and its accompanying destroyers in the South China Sea could be rerouted swiftly, echoing past Biden-era shifts where carriers were repositioned to support Middle Eastern operations. Japan's defense experts warned that limited U.S. carrier presence in the region could force Japan to take greater responsibility for its own security, shifting from a traditional U.S.-Japan division of roles to a more autonomous stance. Retired Admiral Yoji Koda cautions against repeating Vietnam War mistakes by micromanaging military operations from Washington, emphasizing the importance of empowering theater commanders, a lesson learned from the Gulf War, while military analysts worry that such strategic shifts could weaken regional stability and complicate U.S. military efforts across multiple theaters. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
Morning sunlight on the street, city whispers soft and sweet, faces mix in daily grind, every story intertwined, cultures blend like colors bright, languages in the silent night, on the table stories told, food and feast upon so bold, people living day by day, in the heart they find their way, sharing moments, voices sing, in this world of everything. Society in rhythms beat, entertainment's fleeting heat, echoes of wars and fears, laughing through our unseen tears, children playing in the park, drawing dreams till after dark, elders speak of days gone by, washing shadows from the sky. People living day by day, in the heart they find their way, sharing moments, voices sing, in this world of everything. Society